because I was starting to get reactions to the smog. Then I went there. Then I graduated in psychology from the University of California. I started in electrical engineering, okay, but that was pretty boring. So I changed to biological engineering, did surgery on rats, okay. Then I changed to psychology, and I had to graduate by then, so I graduated in psychology. Then I started improvisational theater, right? Because what we're doing, there's Gandharva Veda, there's Vastu Veda. What is Vastu Veda? Vastu Veda is space. Huh? Space. Architecture. Architecture.
Yeah.
Then Ayurveda is medicine. Okay. Then Danda Veda, that's political science.
I see.
Because the king has the Danda Veda. So what we're doing in ISKCON is Gandharva Veda. The Gandharvas are singing, dancing.
Darshan, can you hear me?
So our whole yoga is actually.
Yes, Mataji, we're live.
Okay, so the camera was correct, right?
Yes.
Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the nectar of the ocean of devotion. And it's totally based upon drama principles. Those start with Bharata Muni before Christ. They come down through Abhinava Gupta, Dandakan, Emperor Bhoja. He's a pretty famous guy. Emperor Bhoja was, I think, in Gujarati side. He was an emperor, wasn't just a king. But he wrote about Vastu, and he also wrote about drama, how it combines and these kind of things. In the East, Bharata Muni is the authority on drama. Everybody accepts his, what's it called, Nata Shastras. In the West, it is Aristotle. Aristotle, there's Socrates, Plato, Aristotle. They're very clearly one after another. And tremendous amount of our Western culture, idea, and philosophy comes from Aristotle. How does it go? It was kind of, he's a Greek. I think he may have been in Egypt. He was Alexander the Great's Chandragupta Pandit. We have Chandragupta?
Yeah, Chandragupta.
Yeah, the king. The king was Chandragupta. And then Chandragupta was his Brahmin advisor. And Alexander's advisor was Aristotle. The two cultures met, and I mean, Alexander was considered the greatest general who ever lived. But he was just outnumbered, if nothing else. When he got to Taxila Raj surrendered. Forget it. Okay. Then after that was Porus, and Porus fought with him. And in the end, he was so impressed with Porus, he said, "Okay, I just I'm going to defeat you, but please don't make me defeat you." And Porus said, "All right, I surrender." But it was tremendous strategy and how he defeated him. The next river was Chandragupta, and that's the point when Alexander gave up. He didn't give up, but his men said, "Look, he's got more elephants than we have horses." And he said, "All right, if you guys want to quit now." So he went back. But Aristotle was his, advisor. So Aristotle did everything, but all that, including drama. But that was lost in the West until it came through the Arabs to Spain. Okay. And then, what's his name? Aquinas, St. Thomas Aquinas. He picked it up from Aristotle because at that time the Catholic Church was starting to have problems because the age of reason was coming and people were starting to become wanting to be rational and explain things that way and not just enough. The Bible says and the priests say, okay. So St. Thomas Aquinas said, this is the way that we can explain Christianity. It takes Aristotle's ideas of analyzing things and everything else. And the Pope said, whatever Aristotle says, that's our accepted in all of our churches. So at that point, St. Thomas Aquinas, he received his PhD, doctorate from the University of Paris, the same moment that St. Thomas Aquinas and Santa Bonaventura, Saint Bonaventura. They were both there together at the same time. And they were arguing who would take it first, because the person that takes it first is the most prestigious. So they're Catholic saints. They said, "No, you take it first. No, you take it first." So they kept trying to be more humble. And all the judges are sitting there like, okay, these guys. So finally, St. Thomas Aquinas lost, and so he took it first. You know? But his idea was analysis from Socrates, Aristotle. You understand the frog by cutting it into pieces. Cut off its arms, pop out his eyes, cut open his body. Okay, now we understand what is the frog, right? We've analyzed it. Of course, the frog is dead. But, you know. So that's how we develop in the West this whole analytical view, science, analyze everything. St. Bonaventura was synthetic. His idea is you say, hello, frog. And the frog says, ribbit. So you say, ribbit. And the frog says, hello. Okay. Then you start finding out what the frog likes and what he likes to go for walks. So it's a whole different way of looking at nature. One is to synthesize with things, the other is to analyze. You know? And so, because of Aristotle, St. Thomas Aquinas, everybody else that went that direction. So Aristotle also did things on drama, what it is, why it's there. It's a fundamental part of human life, so fundamental that Aristotle said this is how it should go together. So the essence of the drama for Aristotle was the plot, okay? One Manipuri boy's sister is kidnapped by evil Burmese drug lords. So he gets some of his friends and they go and rescue his sister and blow up the drug factory. That's the plot, right? You gotta be able to say it in one sentence. And right away, okay, now we get the whole movie and put it together. And if you go to UCLA, Los Angeles, theater school, one of the biggest in the world, of course, it's connected to Hollywood. That's what they'll teach you. If you're gonna have a plot, it should be one sentence that everybody could understand. Manipuri's sister was kidnapped by evil Burmese drug dealers. And so he got some of his friends and they went and rescued his sister and killed the drug lords. Okay, now right away, yeah, sounds like an interesting story and blowing things up and Manipuri guys. My Shannas Guru is from Manipur, so I went there many times. Yeah. So anyway, that was for Aristotle. The essence of the drama was the plot, what's going to happen. Yeah. For Bharata, the essence of the drama is the bhava, right? The attitude, the perspective, how you look at things. Yeah. That happens before you think about them. You got to have your attitude. Ishwaraham, aham bogi, siddhaham balavan sukhi. Bhagavad Gita, demons. I'm the controller. I'm the enjoyer. Ishwaraham hom bogi. I'm perfect. I'm powerful. This is the demoniac attitude. Okay? But that's your bhava, your consciousness, Krishna consciousness, Bhagavad Sanga. So his idea was that the drama should purify your perspective. That after you came out of a drama, you should have like a different view on things. I saw one movie, it was called Django Unchained. It was about the whole black thing.
Yeah, pretty intense.
But after watching that, my whole attitude towards being a white man in America changed. And I feel, boy, I get a big debt to black people. No, they were really abused, Other than this, Mississippi Burning, it's really movies that you don't just kind of learn some new thing, but you come out with a different attitude. So very, very different, this, and all of what we're doing in Rupa Goswami and Chaitanya is simply Nectar of Devotion, Bhakti-Rasa Sindhu, is based all upon Aristotle and Aristotle's. Bharata Muni's terminology, Vibhava, Anubhava, Sattvika Bhava. You know these?
Some of them.
Okay, this is in the southern section, starting Bhava. There's 5 principles to Bhava. Vibhava, Anubhava, Sattvika Bhava, Vyabhichari Bhava, and Sthaya Bhava. Vibhava is the stimulus. So the drama, you have to have something that stimulates, the act, which can be like, the actor says something or does something or something, Vibhava. And then the reaction is Sattvika Bhava, when it's something which just comes from you can't really control, like crying or hiccuping or trembling. Vibhava. And Anubhava is something you have to kind of control, like singing or something. It's coming out, but you have controlled a little bit. Okay. Then Vyabhichari Bhava are things that move us, the Abhichari Bhava, towards our Sthaya Bhava. Sthaya Bhava is your fundamental relationship with Krishna. As Dasya Ras, Sakya Ras, as a servant, as a friend, as a parent, or as a lover. I skipped one there, or neutrality, like that. Shantaras, Sanga. He's analyzing, so these are just the way nature is. Of course, you can mix them. What is Balaram's rasa with Krishna? Shanta, Dasya, Sakya.
Older brother.
Yeah, so mostly it's Sakya ras, friendly and joking and playing and besting. But because the big brother, it's mixed a little bit with Vatsalya ras. Balaram has to protect Krishna from dangerous things like demons and gopis. Yeah, so you see, it starts to enter in like that. You know, Radha and Krishna meet for the first time, and oh, do you love chocolate ice cream? Why I love chocolate ice cream. And Balaram is thinking, this is going a little fast. So, you know, Krishna, I think it's time to go home now. Heard the cows. So Radha is saying, oh, Balaram, can't Krishna stay a little longer? We'll come back tomorrow. Don't worry. Oh, okay. So even in Goloka, there's Guru. And Balaram is Guru and participating. Yeah. But because he's a servant of Krishna, when he goes and sees Krishna one time, his club is on the ground and Krishna pays obeisances. But Balaram's club was touching the ground first because he's like, you know, in this feeling of everyone loves to serve Krishna. So some dasya, some vatsalya, but basically it's sakya, friendship. So in the immature stage, this is our sthai bhava. You know, it matures from sakya sthai bhava into sthai bhava. So via vichari bhava are those things that take us very strongly. When Mother Yashoda sees Krishna wrapped up by slimy Kaliya, you know, sees this. This is via the. So this is, you know, what is it called? I lost it here. Vibhava. This is vibhava. This is the stimulus. She sees this, and what does it stimulate? You know, it stimulates via vichari bhava. It takes her very strongly to her bhava, which is. Yeah, Vatsalya. It brings out her motherly feelings like that. You know? So at that point, Mother Yashoda may say things. She may say words about Kaliya that you didn't know Mother Yashoda knew. These kind of words like that. Mother Yashoda. And later on, somebody videoed the whole thing, and Mother Yashoda sees herself saying those words, and she's kind of laughing. But it's not distasteful. Under those conditions, for Mother Yashoda to say those things, yeah, to mother to sticking up for her kid. So those are the vichari bhavas. They come out for one moment, and then they carry us very strongly towards the motherly feelings, that kind of stuff. Yeah. Okay.
It's based on sthai bhava.
So sthai bhava is the fundamental relationship you have with Krishna. It is either Shanta sthai bhava, Dasya sthai bhava, Sakya sthai bhava, Asalya sthai bhava, or Madhurya sthai bhava. It's the immature stage of rasa. It's a seed, it's a sapling, it's a seed, it's a sprout, it's a sapling, it's a tree, it's a flower, it's an apple, a mango, pear.
That's the point.
That's bhava.
That's the point of sthai bhava, is when the fruit
It's sthai bhava. You know your relationship to Krishna, everything else, but it's not mature. So you go in bhava bhakti, and it becomes mature. So the mature stage of bhava is prema. Wow, we're learning so much. Now we've got to apply it.
Application.
I got it. Okay. So it's done speaking. Oh, okay. So koi prashna hai? You speak Hindi?
Yes. Yeah.
But is that your mother tongue?
Yes.
Okay, they're from Bangalore. So Bangalore.
I can understand a little bit, but
Probably more than I can understand. Yeah.
we are from Hyderabad.
Okay, Hyderabad. Hyderabad is Telugu?
Telugu, yes.
Wow.
I knew.
And Bangalore is
Kannada.
Huh?
Kannada.
Kannada. Tamil Kannada.
Someone
Yeah. It's amazing. One time I was in South America. I go there preaching a lot. Very, very similar to India. And our program was at the university, and the rector was there, head of the university. I was getting an award. I was getting a gold medal. But it wasn't gold, but it looked like, for contribution. Yeah. Okay, I'm actually a professor at the university, but causes and orders. So the ambassador of India was there. And I got up and I said, India is not a country, it's a subcontinent. And the ambassador of India went, yeah. It's like Europe. Europe is not a country, it's a subcontinent. So India is, actually, I say it's not a nation. There's a difference. It's not a nation. Because a nation means a whole cultural thing like that. Country is something else. So the ambassador of India said, yeah. Different languages, different marriage traditions, different food, different character. And so it is. And so it's a subcontinent.
Different levels of concept for that. And there's layers to that concept in the area.
Oh, yeah.
Subcontinent in the countries and
Yeah.
cities, etc.
Yeah. So, Aristotle. Yeah.
But it's not politically established the same way as a subcontinent as it is, to be in India, it's a subcontinent. So there's not the political affiliation going with that.
Well, unless somebody conquers them all and makes an empire.
Well, that's,
Like the Holy Roman Empire. The Roman Empire, it brought a lot of different nations under the same emperor. And Alexander did it in the Holy Roman Empire. And then the Third Reich didn't last very long. It was an empire for maybe 5 years. They're getting shorter. So what you call it, the Indian Empire, trying to include Kashmir, I guess.
it can be a good thing or a bad thing. It depends on who's ruling and how.
Yeah. Our whole philosophy in the Bhagavatam, you see, is that Yudhishthira was the emperor, and everybody was agreeable. The Kshatriyas said, okay, may the best man win. And they fought it out in a fair fight, and it's okay. We'll pay our taxes. And everybody, he governed it properly under the rules of Dharma, Krishna. And everybody accepted the demons. Even the demons were. Everybody. Las Vegas. Put it in the middle of the desert, surrounded by nothing but desert. Okay, and then you can have Las Vegas, and people can do all these, interesting things. We say no illicit sex, no intoxication, no gambling, no meeting. In Las Vegas, they say illicit sex, intoxication, meeting. That's all. It's like what's it called? What's it called? Bilva Swarga. Subterranean heavenly planets. They're exactly the same thing. No sunlight, everything else. It's just the same kind of enjoyment. And even the Bhagavatam is even describing marijuana. The Bhagavatam and Bilva Swarga. More pleasure than in Swarga, in terms of sense gratification. But it's a lower level of consciousness.
Subhuman.
Huh?
Subhuman in some aspects.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Having some human awareness,
Yeah.
but it's all sense gratification.
Yeah.
Immense.
But more powerful than humans.
Yeah. At the material platform.
Yeah.
Sensual platform.
Rakshasas.
Oh yeah.
So if anybody has any questions, comments. Anybody online have any questions or comments? Yeah.
YouTube.
Huh?
YouTube.
YouTube.
You're on YouTube through the ESCON.
Krishna is the one way. What kind of work is everybody doing?
They're all doctors.
Huh?
They're all doctors.
Huh?
Doctors.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
medical doctor.
Yes,
Because there's also doctor of philosophy.
Yeah.
that's true.
Medicine.
Yeah. I guess when you start becoming for the terminal care, you change from MD to PhD. Okay, now we gotta, yeah. Okay, so there's no such thing as a real medical doctor without a specialization anymore, right? Or you did some specialization?
Yeah, I'm a pediatric nephrology.
Pediatric nephrology,
Yeah.
kidneys.
Doc.
Yeah, I know that. Children's kidney doctor.
Yeah.
I have one disciple in Peru, Patrak Das. Very nice young guy, but he was really heavy in the business field as a young man. Then he had kidney failure. So he had one replacement, and those failed after 7 years. Then he was on dialysis. And then one child died at a very young age. So they took the children. And of course, those grow very fast.
Mhm.
Right? And so he's, whatever, running a child. When he was first going in, they would do the dialysis. He said he had like one full container of trash coming out, and he had to have somebody take him in and pick him up. But after becoming a Hare Krishna devotee and following our yoga and our process, everything, he would go on his bicycle, had 1/3 of a container coming out, and leave on his bicycle afterwards. And all the doctors and nurses were amazed. What do you do? Everything else. So for every single process in the Ashtanga yoga system, asana, yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, there's a corresponding process in the bhakti yoga system. Like chanting and dancing with an open throat from the heart, automatically you adjust the prana, and the pranayama follows. In the beginning, the drum is playing you. So but after a while, you start withdrawing your pratyahara. Now you start controlling. My fingers want to do this, but no, you don't do that. And you start playing the drum rather than the drum playing you. Becoming pratyahara. And at that point, okay, you come back to the point where now you can start to dharana, dhyana, control your mind. The same process. We do a fair amount of interfaith dialogue. And of course, my background's in Christianity. And there are big saints like, what is it, like Santa Rosa. What's her name? She's from Spain. Santa Clara. We'll come back. She's very, very famous Spanish saint. To be a saint in the Catholic Church is a whole process. They analyze everything like that. Santa Teresa of Avila. Santa Teresa de Avila. She's very famous. So maybe 500 years ago. So she wrote one book called The Crystal Palace. And it describes spiritual development as like this palace. And she said, and since she writes, she did look at her, she's you can tell she's like maybe like a 60, 70-year-old, very kind of jolly, friendly nun, Brahmacharini. But you also sense that if you get out of line, she can, okay, it's very, very nice. So she said, okay, I'll try and write about my experiences. My bishop has told me to do this, and I don't know if it's going to be successful or not, but at least it'll help me forget about my arthritis. Okay, so then she said, it's like a palace. So there's the palace on Saturday, the Baron opens it all up for a fair, and all the people come inside and they sell things and buy things and see puppet shows and have a good time. As you can see, it matches up. It's the same level. We're talking about the science. Ice becomes water, becomes steam, becomes plasma. Okay, doesn't matter if it's Russian ice, French ice, German ice, anything. The same way, these levels in spiritual life, Ado Shraddha, Sadhu Sanga, our system, find the same thing. So she's saying in the beginning, this thing's going on, spiritual life, Christianity. So for us, it's like the Sunday feast. People come, the temple's open, there's beautiful kirtan, nice music, nice food, nice associations from dramas, philosophy. Then you go home. So I know some devotees in Denver, Colorado. And they've been coming to the Sunday feast for something like 25 years. And they all get together before they come, maybe 5 or 6 of them, and smoke marijuana. And they go to the Sunday feast, sing and dance, eat a lot of prasadam. And when the devotees, they said the devotees in the temple go to bed so they can get up early, and they clean the whole thing. So she says, don't get stuck on that level, where you're enjoying your religious life and these kind of things and everything else, and then you leave, So yeah, we can get stuck on the level of having a nice time in our religious life and the beauty of it and the cleanliness and the pious activity, nice association. Yeah. But there's more to that. Okay. Then you start moving in the temple, you have a more strict life. There's a brahmachari and stuff like that and so on. So different levels she's describing. Another one is San Bernardino de Clairvaux, Saint Bernard of Clare Valley, about the same time. And his disciple became the Pope, which is really good if your disciple's in charge of the church. So there's a thing in the Bible that you may know called the Song of Solomon.
Song of Solomon, I've heard.
Yeah. So
The Solomon's Key.
Well, Solomon was doing also this, had Psalms, but there was one thing called the Song of Solomon or the Song of Songs. And it's very kind of controversial. And it says, it starts off, it says, kiss me with the kiss of your lips. Okay, that's where it starts. It was very, very Madhurya Ras. You know? So 500 years ago, St. Bernard de Clairvaux was talking to the brahmacharis, the brothers, the monks. He says, okay, now we're going to talk about the Song of Solomon. I'm only talking to you about this because you've already studied Ecclesiastes and Proverbs. And by studying those, you have become free from the lust of the body and the lust of the mind. The lust of the body is gross gratification, but the lust of the mind is honor, prestige, these kind of things. You know? So you've gone beyond those, and now we're ready to talk about these things. And he said, yes, there is the kiss of the lip. You can become that intimate with God. He said, but before that, there's two other kisses. The kiss of the feet and the kiss of the hand. And he said, as far as I'm concerned, I'm still working on the kiss of the feet. You know? So for us, this would be sambandha. We turn away from our material desire to be Napoleon Bonaparte, whoever it is, you know, conquering everybody, exploiting everybody. We turn back to God and we say, I'm really sorry. I'm trying to, you know, conquer everybody and trying to enjoy Radharani. You know, please forgive me, please forgive me. You know, and so we're crying and kissing God's feet and say, please, you know, okay. So this is sambandha. We're just reconnecting. You know, I'm not a rascal. I've done all these horrible things. You've always been trying to save me. You've gone and risked your life to pull me out of this mess. So thank you. Okay. Sambandha. And after we go ahead and we're practicing, we're following principles, we're becoming more mature, we do austerities, we become purified. And the master says, okay, here's a letter. It has to be in the mailbox down the corner by 12 o'clock. And you get it there. Take it and kiss his hand and say, yes, sir, I can do it for you. Don't trust me, I'll do it. This is Sambandha Adideya. You're taking Diksha or baptism or whatever, and you're following the process. And now Krishna, you can see that you're cooking for your deities, and you start to see they're starting to depend on me. They're trusting me. If I don't make the offering on time, they'll suffer. You know, you start to experience them. You know, when something you weren't able to do it on time, you're looking at your deities, your mortals, you're seeing that they're hungry. Oh my goodness, and they're suffering. You know? And okay, and it was because of my greed. I wanted to watch some soap opera on television or something finished, and I fed them late, and you know, so they're suffering because of me. I'm not a good servant. Okay, that'll never happen again. I promise. You promise? You promise. Okay. Yeah. So he's describing the same things. You know? When it comes to the kiss of the lips, you can't distinguish between Vatsalya Ras and Madhurya Ras. You know? There is Madhurya Ras in the Catholic Church. You know? They accept that. I mean, 5 saints have achieved that level throughout their whole history. The first one is obvious. It's Mother Mary. Okay, Mother Mary is obviously in a conjugal relationship with Jehovah because she's the mother of his baby, Jesus. Okay, you know, it sounds kind of strange. But Catholics, they say, you know, it's there. They say, but this is only going to be discussed among people who've already gone through Ecclesiastes and all this kind of stuff. Very senior nuns and monks will talk about it and the feelings and the sentiments. And we know we're not talking about anything in terms of the body now. We're talking about these symptoms of surrender and attitude. Mother Yashoda would rather die 1,000 times before seeing one drop of perspiration on Krishna's head from having to work. Krishna's spoiled kid. Mother Yashoda would make his bed. But yeah, or not, you know, or she would try and chase him and chastise him. Yeah. So anyway, San Bernardino is having you can't distinguish the two, which is, you know, but who loves Krishna more, his mommy or his girlfriend? You know? We have the same argument with Pushti Marg and Gujarat. They say that Yashoda is the greatest devotee. We say Radha. Who loves Krishna more, his girlfriend or his mother? You know? Yashoda would say Radha, and Radha would say Yashoda. They would both say, oh no. Yeah. But you can see the same thing is there, but it's very confidential.
It's different rasa.
Huh?
Different rasa.
Yeah, but that's the whole point, is that they can't distinguish the two. They're not purified enough. They can see they're both great. You know, how Mary loves Jesus as a baby, or how And Jehovah loves Mary as a wife. And after that, Santa Rosa of Lima was also considered on that level. And then Saint John of God, who's a disciple of one of the lady. He was her disciple. Also, his writings are the same sentiments. And then Plato, he said he was talking about. He said the most confidential worship of God is choros and chore, conjugal worship. But he said, don't discuss it in public or it will become vulgar. So when choros and chore went to Rome, they became Hoga and Hoventa. And you can trace that all through Europe onto South America and places. You find that in South America, you're saying, well, I got this from so-and-so in Flanders, in the 15th century. I'm here writing about it in the 16th century. He took it from these Greek poems, and they took it. That was where it began. It's the PhD thesis from when she became a devotee after this. But she traced all these pastoral motifs back. That was her PhD at the biggest university in South America, Dora Basan. But then it came to the Greeks, and everybody said it all began there. But she was reading this research and this stuff, and some of the Greeks were saying, no, it's coming from a more ancient source. She couldn't find it. So anyway, the themes, the motifs, and the images and the symbolism were being passed down all the way down into South America. And when the young pastor, cowherd boy, would play his flutes, the young calves, unable to would stand frozen with the mother's milk bags in their mouths without being able to suck. Their eye, the rivers would stop. This is exactly what you find in the Bhagavatam. Same, things passed on, exactly poetry. So anyway, she was with her husband in Peru, and he went into a gas station. And one Hare Krishna devotee, a girl was selling books, it made it 25 years ago, 30 years ago. And the girl came up and said, oh, this is about from India, it's an ancient story about Krishna and how the cows and Krishna and the cows and playing the flute and everything else. And she was, this is her life researching all these things. So she was just stunned, she couldn't move, And then the girl started to walk away, and she kind of just forced her hand to go over to the horn. And she told me this, and started pushing the horn like, yeah. I buy. So they bought all the books. Her and her husband. They started reading them, and so many things were similar. They're Catholics, So they kept going back to the gas station again and again until after 2 weeks they finally found a devotee there. They met the devotees and started going and getting involved. So she's Dora Basan Mantra Negro de Devoto. She has 5 doctorates, and she's initiated by Jayapatankamaya. She's Divyavani. Her husband was initiated as Rupanuga, but he picked up an Ayurveda. I never met a better Ayurvedic doctor than him. The indigenous system in Peru, for the shaman of the medicine now, they use the pulse traditionally in Peru, and so many things like that, the prana and the life airs. And their pharmacology is much bigger than Ayurvedic pharmacology in India because they have the Amazon jungle. One tree in the Amazon jungle has more variety of, I think, of birds and everything else in all of Europe. The Amazon is still dying. And they say there's one herb that when you chew it, it allows you to understand the potency of all the other ones. And they take different herbs or whatever, and the medicine to cure this, you're going to mix them properly, right? This one produces, this pitta. I'm 70% pitta minimum. He analyzed me. You see, right? So anyway, Ayurveda is, of course, a wonderful system. And the indigenous system in the Andes is, you see, it's so similar. The cultures must have been connected at some point, but their pharmacology is much bigger, but they haven't got a good explanation of it. So I took them to India finally, their son Eric. Boy, that was one of the most hellish trips in my life. After I got back, Rupanuga told me, he said, my philosophy, Maharaj, is wherever you are, you should be there. So he'd come up to you and he would say, Bal Chandra, how are you? That's how he grabs you right into the present moment. What's going to happen next? What happened last? He just brings you right back. You say, well, actually, I'm miserable. but I'm thinking about this and thinking about that. So he has it. So traveling with him, my gosh, I was trying to make plans in India for catching the train, catching the taxi, everything else. And he was just absorbed in the moment. And we went to Motilal Barnasidas in Delhi. I finally got him there. And she was there, Dora Bazan, the 5 doctors, him with his Ayurvedic background, his son Eric. And he had the text he wanted, And so we were going back in the back, and it was like a 6-foot tall thing, and Motilal Barnasidas and all these books everywhere. So he's talking to the salesman, and he said, "There's 2 copies, 2 volumes of this." And the salesman said, "No, sir, you're not knowing, sir. There's only 1 volume." He said, "No, there's 2 volumes. We have the 2nd volume." And he called his manager, and the guy said, "Well, yeah, actually, there is a 2nd volume, but we haven't got it. I can send somebody next door; they can get it." Then the salesman kind of shipped out, and the manager took over. And he kept buying all these things, And she kept buying like Mahabharata and all these things and stuff. And then the pile of books that were buying was like going up. And then the whole store manager came at a certain point, and their smile, I'm kidding, their smiles just kept going up in terms of how the book was going up. And they said, "Oh, you're closing now. We have to go." He said, "No, sir, it is not. We ship." So he ended up with it was definitely the best, classical and medical library in all of South America at the time it arrived like that. And then he started like finding people who could try and translate. Who is it? Yeah, I forgot who it is. The medical authorities like that. Not Bascar. No. I mean, just taking the principles and applying them and everything else. So he would tell me, he said, dal tastes harsh to you, right? And I said, "Well, yeah." He said, "Add some sugar." "Oh, sugar? Not so you taste it, but it's okay. Yeah. And usually I have, this trouble reading everything. So when I go to his house and eating, everything opens up. And the food's not hot, but it stimulates the pitta. Yeah, it's amazing. So many things. I had a child, I had allergies. Okay. You lie on your stomach and they scratch your back. Okay. Then they give you control with distilled water. I had an allergy reaction with distilled water. Okay. So the doctor called in the nurse and chastised her for using a contaminated needle or something. And she said, "I did not," or whatever. Okay. Got to redo the whole thing. I still reacted to distilled water. So then he had 3 new bottles, 3 new syringes, and 3 new needles every single time I reacted. So the nurse, of course, was, vindicated. Yeah. And he came back with the results. And he said, "Okay, this is the result of your allergies." He said, "But I have the slightest idea what it means, because the control, he said, if you have an allergy to distilled water, you'd be dead. So get out of here." So many things like that, which Western medicine was allopathy was having a trouble explaining it, but the whole thing with Ayurveda and everything else, you're pitta. If I look at poison ivy, I get an allergy. I just look at it, Guru Bhakti had to put me on steroids twice when I was cutting out poison ivy one time. Boy, it was a whole.
Tannic acid.
Yeah.
Strong.
Yeah. I had it's in our lot. So I had a war with the poison ivy, and I won. It was this big. The root was that big in the stuff. Oh yeah, it was in there. But I got the poison, and apologized, and
Yeah, Houston, when it gets real hot, it starts putting oil in the air.
Oh yeah.
And
You can even if you breathe it.
Yeah, and lung.
Oh yeah. Oh wow. Yeah.
I want to breathe that stuff. You get fires in California.
But Ayurveda is based on the same medical analysis, which is Sankhya. Sankhya is the basis of all Gandharva Veda, everything. There's 5. Okay. Where we Krishna, somehow or other we didn't like it, so we turn away from Krishna. Okay, so we create the Baharanga Shakti, the external energy, where we can pretend we're doing all these things. First covering is Ahankara, ego. I am separate from Krishna. Where the child says, "I don't need mommy and daddy. I can cook for myself." Okay. Yeah, that's all it is. This makes us separate. But then in the mode of when time factor enters in, you know, as the Paramatma. You know. And Paramatma expands himself in Mahavishnu, turns in. And okay, here we go. Here's I'm Mahavishnu. Okay, hello. Yeah. Paramatma enters in to the Prakriti, the external energy. Hello, I'm Krishna. Yeah. So Pradhan, when it's agitated by the Paramatma, then manifests as Prakriti. In the mode of goodness, it manifests buddhi, intelligence. Now, not only am I separate from Krishna, I'm in the material world, but I understand it. Buddhi, intelligence. And then what a passion comes, oh yes, but I don't like it that way, so I want to start changing it. Then Rajas comes in with goals, ambitions. And then finally I got to do something. So tamas, then I directly need to acquire a gross body with senses. So the Brahma is only covered by buddhi. He has an ego, and he's almost on the same level as the Paramatma. He can understand what's happening in 70% of the universe just by figuring it out. Yeah? And other bodies, this adoption takes off. I can take off. Sure, Brahma can take on mentality. He can take on the mentality of a frog. He can take on the body of a frog, but he can also take it off. Yeah? But we can't do that. So different levels of attachment and different bodies manifest. There's a limited number, 8,400,000 species of life. So the Bhagavatam, of course, goes into great detail, explaining all this and how it works. Prabhupada said of all the Western philosophers, Carl Jung was the most intelligent. Yeah? Yeah. And so his experiences and stuff, what he was experiencing, and tried to build a whole structure to explain it. And then you take it to the Bhagavatam. Yeah, he was on the level of Hiranyagarbha. He was experiencing the Virat Rup. You know? He might meet you, and he would experience your karma that brought you here, and your karma is going to take you on. He would say something like, "The dog is okay," and you would start like, "Really?" You know, it's like something you're carrying maybe for two or three lifetimes of something that happened with the dog. But he was experiencing these things. He didn't know what it was exactly. So he developed the whole psychology to deal with it. You know? So anyway, it's a very nice community, and Carl Jung's works are very nice. He went to India. Yeah, he was born 1 year after Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. Yeah, I can go on forever, right? So, but anyway, very, very nice, intellectual, academic, you know, and different fields like that. And you start taking Krishna consciousness, the Bhagavatam, and you start seeing, well, yeah, this is the Bhagavatam. This gives the basis, Ayurveda. But then, of course, once you've got the basis clearly established, and a monotheistic perspective, you know, yeah, it's theological behind it. That's why I'm doing Ayurveda. Ayurveda is for realizing Krishna. Okay? Then you can start going out into all the branches and the details and doing that. Murari Gupta, you know him, Lord Chaitanya. What was his field?
He was physician.
Yeah. He said he would cure his patients' spiritual diseases along with their material diseases. Yeah. And Vastu, the same thing. Yeah. There's two, Mayadanava and Vishwakarma. They're both authorities. The Mayadana creates, you know, gambling casinos and hotels in Las Vegas to increase your enjoyment. And Mayadanava creates places that make you calm and peaceful and allow you to, you know, get out of it. You know. So Vastu also can be for self-realization. You know. And we're doing Gandharva Veda for self-realization. So very nice. But the Bhagavatam is the basic principles, you know, like that. And Sankhya. Yeah. Yeah. Every gross body is a combination of 5 elements, you know, and different ones are prominent. In a dog, which element is prominent? Which sense does a dog rely upon the most? Huh?
Man?
Yeah. The ordinary scent hound, like bloodhounds and that kind of stuff, I think it was 10 million times more sensitive. And there was one bloodhound called Old Colonel, like 1920s police. He was clocked in at it was 100 million times more sensitive. Some guy robbed a bank and he ran out in a small town, and his hat fell off. Okay, they brought Old Colonel the next day, showed him the hat. He went out on the sidewalk because he had leather shoes. He was able, on a public sidewalk, 1 day later, to be able to follow this guy's scent. You know, followed it down and around the corner, and it came out around back of the place. And he started talking to people around them. Oh yeah, there was a car there yesterday, and a guy ran into it. Looked very suspicious. I took his license plate number. You want that? Yeah, we want that. And they got the guy. Yeah. So Old Colonel. if a dog walked in here, I think his level of vision would be about the same as our level of smell. Yeah. But right away, dogs, they go urinate on everything, but to leave there. It's a newspaper, right? Yeah. Who's doing what? Yeah. So every gross body is a combination of 5 elements. And behind that is manas. Let me finish off. Carl Jung was with the Hopi Indians, like after World War I, before World War II. People arranged this. He was with one shaman named Mountain Lake. And he's talking with them about how they view things. Even now, Hopi Indians have maintained their culture, and it's like different than, what's it called, German, North American, industrialized culture. So anyway, Mountain Lake was talking about how they look at things and what the world is for them. And so Carl Jung said, well, why is it that you people think that all Europeans, and so on, Americans are crazy? And he said, because they say they have thoughts in their head. And Carl Jung said, well, yes, of course, that's why you have thoughts. And Mountain Lake said, only a madman has thoughts in his head. A sane man has thoughts in his heart. Wow. Carl Jung said he was so shocked he just could not talk. For the first time in his life, he said he realized how the other cultures saw European. Nuts. That, when we're focusing the chitta and the mode of passion, it's here. That's bigger than this. How can I do that? What's the plan? The organization, accomplish this and that. And the mode of goodness, it's here. Yeah, I'm conscious of my thoughts. I'm conscious of my senses, but I'm here. And of course, we're all trained. We're all conditioned to industrialize Western thought like that and stuff. But by chanting and everything else, you can get out of the mode of passion. Yeah. Yeah. And we become in the mode of goodness, and then you start to become, and you realize, I'm going to have this till I die, but it's not me. Now I can put it in proportion. I know that I can't get in these kind of situations. So you're a pure devotee by using your intelligence. So Jung was beginning to realize these kind of things, and he was way ahead. Even he said that when he had this one out of the body type experience, and he saw the whole world, he saw India, Asia, and he realized, that's where the solution is. But I'm not ready for it, and Europe's not ready for it in 1932, 33. But that's, they obviously are far more advanced than we are, China and India. Yeah. But that's, in the mode of passion, we go into the head. In the mode of ignorance, we go into the senses. The mode of goodness, we're here. In the mode of goodness, and we can see Krishna reflected in our heart. It's an accurate reflection of, okay, this is me, that's Krishna. Okay, and if I want to, all I have to do now is turn around. Okay. And Socrates, the allegory of the cave. So everybody's experiencing the same things and talking about it. But how to put it in the language so different groups can communicate. Yeah. So medicine's a very nice area to preach. Yeah. And because with medicine, you're dealing with science, but you're also dealing with people. Yep. Anyone, doctor, cardiologist, Indian. He said he really became convinced about the Bhagavad Gita. He's Indian, industrialized aspect. Bhagavad Gita, something's there. And he said he really began to take it seriously when he had 2 ladies. They're both 35 years old. They both required a minor abdominal surgery, something gastric. And he told him, it's a little surgery. You'll be out of the hospital after a couple of days. Don't worry about it. He said, but one of them took it that way. Okay. The other one was convinced she was going to die. He said, no, there's nothing to it. She told her will out. She said goodbye to her friends, everything else. So he did the surgery on the same day for both of them. They came out. One lady was, okay, I'm out. Other one was she was disturbed that she hadn't died. It was one lady was out within a couple of days. The other one developed complications and died. And you can see it was completely because of her personal somehow or other. She really, wanted to die. At that point, he realized, no, it's not just chemicals. There's somebody there within this body who's making decisions. So medicine's a very good area, for communicating. Another one's architecture.
No, get on.
Architecture is the most scientific of all the arts and the most artistic of all the sciences. Physics is hopeless. Physicists are doomed forever. Okay, yes. Chemists are maybe some hope for chemists. Prabhupada was a chemist. Biologist. Okay. What does biology mean? Translation to English. It's for two Latin words by biology. The science of life. Yeah. So, yeah, but a big biologist said it's very, what's the word, oxymoron, because we're called biologists, but he says nobody kills more living entities than biologists. Nobody kills more living entities than biologists. Yeah. Yes. So, maybe any questions or comments at this point?
L'chaim, to life.
Okay. Good time. Yeah. Kit in the budget. Kit in the budget.
7:25.
Huh?
7:25.
7:25. So we've been going for 1 hour. My voice is starting to fall apart. I'm 72 years old. I have a right to have.
Aging gracefully.
Yeah. I'm supposed to die on November 23rd, 2024. I gotta.
Maybe some warm water.
Huh?
How did you come up with that number?
I was initiated on Udana Shasti 1974. I took sannyas without even knowing it on Udana Shasti, which is November, roughly speaking, 1984. I started initiating other people on Udana Shasti 2004. We started NEOS, our nonprofit corporation, not on that day, but on January 12th, 2014. I was forced to do it. We were forced to be there and sign the documents at that time. I couldn't go directly from San Francisco to Texas. It was cheaper to go to our base in Nashville and fly there. So one night I was there, we signed the documents. January 12th is my material birthday. So, okay, this is your material institution. Okay, yeah, so mystically speaking, it seems that way. Yeah. My body and everything else. Yeah, 2014, 6 more years, or 3 more years. I got to be careful now. I can start getting heart arrhythmias and this stuff. I could kill myself very easily, by now by pushing and stuff. And then an astrologer guy was going through the thing. He said, "Oh, you'll die in 2000." So I mean, it may not be true, but it's good to plan. When psychologists in South America told me, I said, "Swamiji, forget new projects. It's time to start consolidating." Other people said the same thing. So I don't want to do this. No, I'll give you some advice. You can do it. But what I'm doing now is like taking all this stuff I'm knowing, and maybe, for example, interfaith dialogue, science in the Vedas, and what's another one there? World classical literature, and producing maybe three PowerPoint shows for each one, and then lecturing. Okay, this is what we've understood. These are perspectives for more research work, and then we're going to try and take these to the people we met. Francis Clooney, head of the department, the head of the School of Divinity at Harvard University. You can go to him. Oh yeah, I met Swamiji one time. I thought that's what he's interested in. I'm interested in that too. It's not so much with that. Yeah, I'd like to have a little discussion on these things, understand what your point of view is from your culture and stuff. And you're making a movie out of it. Even better. Okay, then we can, so we're going to do now. We have $85,000, which is enough to start a good movie. And we have come in contact with very good directors. I mean, and people from the United Nations. That's like everything else. It's time to start, okay, whatever you've done, whoever you've contacted, now it's time to start consolidating it and leave your inheritance, right? How old are you all?
50.
Huh?
58.
Oh, young man. Papa said one time, 40, 50, young man. You're getting there, but you're still young man. Yeah.
We're on the road down
Yeah.
after 50.
Yeah. But at a certain point, you see, okay, now it's time to. What have I done in this life? This I go Sundar Das, Shavi Prakash Singh. We're based in Nashville. My friend for a long time. he's head of geriatric psychiatry. Yeah, okay. And so he said, the people come in, basically they have problems, they're getting senility and, Parkinson's disease. So they come in with a family and they maybe stay in the hospital, maybe about 10 days, 1 week, 2 weeks, and get the medication adjusted, everything else. And so it's like, it's like a very nice place, and, they have different kinds of things for them to do and stuff. But they also have a room where they have movies playing, things come and sit and watch movies. And what movies do they like to watch the most? Biographies. Because you're 70 years old, 80 years old, it's just like, it's time to start looking at it and what happened to them and me. And, so he said very much people, they like to watch good biographies. And you start to consider, now I'm looking, it's over almost. What happened? Yeah, it was a complete mess. I really wasted my life. Yeah. But okay, at least maybe in the last 3 years, you figured it out. So think about it. Those other 72 years were worth it. Okay. He said the first thing, because Nashville is what is it? It's one of the most religious places in America. It's considered that. There's more churches in Nashville than any other place on the earth except for the Vatican. And these are like mega churches. They'll fill up 3 times on Sunday with 1,000 people. Yeah. So anyway, it's a very religious place. So he can get away with it there. Whenever his patients come in, he asks them, psychiatrists, do you believe in God? And then there's like nobody's ever been offended. Some people say, no. It's just, some people can believe in God, it's okay. But I'm rational. I'm a scientist. Okay. Now we're going to deal with your geriatric medicine and everything else. But if somebody believes in God, then there's a whole difference in how they're looking at old age and stuff. Basically, if you don't believe in God, you're looking for some palliative experience so you can die a peaceful death and like that and so on, without suffering. But other people know it's time to go. They're not, they're okay. Now it's time to go and stuff. Don't. What's the one you sign the living will? You can sign a living will where you don't want to be. Yeah, it's okay. No, I don't want to be kept on. It's time to go. I'm ready. Yeah. So, okay. What's the next part of our program? A little more kirtan? You have a little prasad? Prasad? Okay. This is Lord Chaitanya was traveling in the Jharikanda forest. When you're circumambulating Nilamadava, outside there's all these pictures on the side. The ones in the back. You come around and the front side, the middle one, there's the monkeys and the bears, and the tigers, and they're all. Lord Chaitanya was chanting this mantra, and all the bears and tigers and everybody else started chanting. So be very careful how you use this mantra. Great chaos. Krishna. First I chant and you listen. You chant and I listen. Krishna, 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 Krishna. Hey. Krishna, 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 Krishna. Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Hey. Krishna, 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 Krishna. Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Hey. Krishna, 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 Krishna. Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Krishna, Krishna, Rakshaman. Krishna, 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 Krishna. Krishna, Krishna, Rakshaman. Krishna, 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 Krishna. Krishna, Krishna, Bhaktiman. Krishna, 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 Krishna. Krishna, Krishna, Bhaktiman. Krishna, Krishna. Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rakshaman. Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rakshaman. Krishna Kaishava, Krishna Kaishava, Krishna Kaishava, Bhaktiman. Krishna Kaishava, Krishna Kaishava, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare. Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare. Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare. Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Rakshaman. Krishna 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 Hare Rama 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 Lakshamam Krishna Kesava Krishna Kesava Krishna Kesava Pahima Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Rama That's as fast as I can go.
Pretty good.
I fall apart. I was in Manipur one time, and went to see Brahmana Maharaj at the temple there. So I was walked across the highway coming from the airport into the town. It was kind of L-shaped building, 2 stories. It was a very big Sanga Shiva. I'm looking at it. And one man came out and he said, hello, you're from Damodar's Hare Krishna temple across the street. Where are you from? I'm from the United States. Oh, really? He says, this is my hospital. It's a maternity hospital for ladies with problematic pregnancies. And he said, this has a very interesting history. So one time, one of the ladies started hemorrhaging, and he really rushed her right into surgery. My assistant surgeon, my nurse, and he said, I knew I was going to leave her. This wasn't going to work out. So I started chanting, Shankar, Shankar, Shankar. The next thing I know, it was closing her up. And my chief surgeon and assistant surgeon and my nurse were looking at me like this. I said, well, what happened? He said, you don't know? He said, it's just, you just started, hemostats, you just started, it was unbelievable. It was just cutting, sewing, everything else like that. And we're trying to keep up with you. And so anyway, so he figured, just chatting, Mahadev. Mahadev said, okay, I'll take over here. And so he built a statue of Mahadev. So trying to explain that scientifically. Well, DNA propensity for going into trance. Placebo effect. Well, placebo effect. Placebo.
Placebo.
Effect.
Oh yeah, that's an interesting concept.
Whatever you can't explain, they say placebo effect. But if you actually study psychology, you understand it has placebo effect has rules and regulations. You can't do surgery on a placebo effect. I got it.
Must be hungry.
Yeah. Yes. Wow. How old is he? How old?
16 months. 16 months.
Year and a quarter, huh?